Watching people like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, all these other people who are part of the Daily Wire, and even obviously people outside the Daily Wire as well when it comes to people like Steven Crowder, anybody who goes out in public and talks to students, they get actually on the battlefield and talk to these woke weirdos. I respect them a lot for one, but also for two, there's such good content, man, because it really shows the gap in knowledge. It really shows the gap in IQ between people like Michael Knowles and just the people who regurgitate the woke ideals that they hear online. You know, just seeing these people in real life, seeing them try to spew the same ideology, the same talking points, the same agendas that they hear online, that they see in Hollywood, that they see on TikTok, whatever it is, and seeing somebody with actual critical thinking skills like Michael Knowles, like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, whoever it is, like these people who actually have high IQs, who have actually thought these ideas out to their logical conclusions. It's so refreshing to watch, and people love to see it. This one is one of the best clips that I've seen as well, not just because of how good Michael Knowles is in the clip, and obviously he has a great response, and this video is going pretty viral because of Michael Knowles' response, but also because of how dumb the student sounds, and as they're referred to in this tweet, the woke student. They say, "Before I say my question, I just want to honor that we are all standing on the land that belongs to the words people." God, dude, that stuff pisses me off. Let's check out this clip really quick.
Hi, Mr. Knowles. My name is Kat, and I have a question. And before I state my question, I just want to honor that we are all standing on the land that belongs to the Ojibwe Anishinaabe people.
Thank you for mentioning that. I meant to mention that at the beginning of my speech, but I'm glad that
Dakota, Northern Cheyenne, and they have been here for time.
Like, I'm so glad that Michael Knowles can just laugh at that and not try to, push back at all. It's just like, this person is totally ridiculous for even saying that. Like, I don't understand why we're supposed to feel bad for conquering land. Like, why do we never try to trash Alexander the Great or Charlemagne or Genghis Khan? Like, why are those people celebrated? Why are they glorified? And yet whenever we do it, whenever the people who actually won at the end of the day, the people who actually conquered the most land, the people who rule the earth now, why are we supposed to feel bad about it? Like, no, we conquered this shit. It's ours now. I don't care whose land we're standing on, whose land this used to be. I don't care. I don't give a shit. They lost. We won. We conquered this shit. It's ours now. So stop pushing this stuff. Stop trying to say we're supposed to feel bad for conquering this land. Like, no, I don't feel bad. We won. This is our victory.
Memorial, and so that leads into my question. So you make the statement that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, and so I'm going to ask you a question about that, but prior to that, I want to just state that for 5,000 years BC, Gala transcribed and androgynous trans priests of Sumerian goddesses have been around and noted. 200 to 300 years before Christ in ancient Greece, there were gods worshipped by Gali priests who wore feminine attire and identified as women. Since we are standing on Anishinaabe land, Turtle Island, which is the nation that we live under, has
I don't live under Turtle Island.
All right, well, maybe you should read a little more indigenous knowledge books. Indigenous communities have used two-spirit personas.
Maybe it used to be called Turtle Island. I don't really give a shit because we conquered it and we renamed it to what we wanted to call it. That's how this shit works.
For the entirety of their culture. And so that leads me to my question. When you say that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, I ask you, Mr. Knowles, how can we eradicate something that has been here as long as humans have?
Well, yeah, there have been all sorts of crazy, terrible ideas for a very long time, too. You're pointing to civilizations that committed human sacrifice, okay? You're saying that some ancient pagan tribe worshipped demons and therefore we need to castrate children. That's not a good argument. Yes, that's true. There were all sorts of terrible tribes. In fact, as recently as a little over 500 years ago, the Aztecs here in the Western Hemisphere slaughtered 80,000 people in a sacrifice to one of the demons that they worshipped within the span of 4 days. That's not a recommendation of doing that. I don't think that we ought to consider it. Though, unfortunately, in our increasingly pagan and liberal culture, we do commit human sacrifice to the tune of 800,000 babies a year sacrificed through abortion. And it would make the Aztecs blush what we do. But that doesn't make it the right thing. You refer to a notion that is increasingly popular on the left, which is the idea of the two-spirit among various indigenous tribes.
Real quick, also, these people, these past societies, past civilizations, whatever you want to call it, whenever people who are normal, like the grunts of the society, were to say, I'm a man, I identify as a woman now, I'm going to wear a dress and all these other things. They didn't have the technology to have the surgeries to where these people can actually have children or anything like that. Like, very few people even do to this day. Very few trans people even have that surgery to this day. Back then, they definitely, obviously didn't have the technology to be able to do that. So what are the men who turned into women back in the day? They're absolutely useless and they get cast out from society. What this person is saying is that the leaders of these civilizations, the leaders of these societies would also transition. Notice how those are the only types of people who wouldn't be cast out from society because they're extremely privileged. The only reason why we're able to do this dumb shit, to push these dumb narratives today and have people actually change from man to woman to woman to man, all these other BS, is because of how privileged we are as a society. Back then, you were cast out from society because if you're worried about what gender you are, instead of going find clean water and food to eat, then you're useless. The only thing that they were worried about is advancing society enough to where they didn't have to worry every single day about hunting and gathering food and finding clean drinking water. Today, we don't have to worry about that stuff, and we're so privileged that instead, we're fighting over what pronouns to call people.
That is not real. That is a contrivance of white liberals in America. There have been various conceptions of sex and gender for all of human history, but the idea of the two-spirited indigenous intuition of some modern transsexual living in New York City who's a man who very much desires to be a woman, that is a complete fiction. You will not find that in literature dating very far back. So what does it say about the question itself? The question, regardless of what the ancient Sumerians believed before they chopped up little kids or whatever, is it true? Can a man really be a woman, and can a woman really become a man? We all know that the answer to that question is false. That's why Professor McCloskey pulled out of our debate at the last moment next week, because even a distinguished professor knows, he has the intelligence to know, even if he is transgender identifying himself, that he can't win that debate because the idea is indefensible. So the question becomes, how does one know that someone with the total physical appearance of a man, how can one know that that person really is a woman? Do you have an answer to that question?
To clarify, you're asking how can somebody know if they are a woman?
And how can I know if that person is a woman? If not by the physical attributes, their natural and enduring.
Because of the pronouns in their Twitter bio, obviously. Come on, dude. We don't know this. It's 2023.
Biological sex. What's the alternative to that?
So my response to you is then a question of, what is the purpose of knowing another person's sexual identity? But let me finish.
Yeah.
If it's not for the premise of reproduction, and there's no need to relate outside of that, then I don't quite understand why we would need to question or.
So this is what happens whenever you ask a transgender activist to explain even the basic premise of the movement, is they'll immediately say, well, who cares? Why are you so obsessed with this? I'm not obsessed with this. I'm not the one who started sending men into the women's bathroom and taking away their trophies and castrating kids. I'm perfectly happy with the way things have worked for thousands of years.
Exactly. That's what the conservatives have been saying for the longest time. It's these weirdo leftists, it's these weirdo extremists on the left that are pushing these narratives, the transgender narrative, and there's a ton of others as well. This one is more focused on the transgender narrative, but they're trying to push these things forward. They're trying to change the way society works. They're trying to change the way everybody thinks, and everybody on the conservative side is just like, no, wait, don't. It's not like people on the right, it's not like people who are conservative are trying to push these things forward and push back against transgenderism that has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Everybody on the conservative side, on Michael Knowles' side, and everybody else on the Daily Wire side is just trying to say, please stop changing things. Let's keep everything the same. And the people like this beanie person here is trying to say, no, let's continue to push things forward and change the way people have been hardwired to think for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
It is the transgender activists who are trying to upend everything. And so I think it is at least my right to ask the question, okay, what is the premise of your movement? But they always deflect from that. They always withdraw from the debate. They always try to change the subject because there is no answer. So you ask me, well, what's the purpose of, why do you even care? What's the purpose of knowing someone's biological sex? Well, for starters, because we have civil rights specifically for women in the United States. We have special bathrooms for women. We have special sports leagues for women. We have all sorts of special places and rights and privileges. And that are for women that are not for men. So if now some men, people who at the very least appear to be men, are claiming a right to go into those women's bathrooms, then we either have to abolish all of the special rights and privileges that have existed for women for all of human history and are enshrined in our law, or they need to explain to me how those men are actually women. And they can't do the latter, and I'm not willing to do the former, and I don't think women across this country are willing to do the former, even if a few people have been so ideologically blinded that they would give in to this kind of an absurdity.
He definitely had no response to that. Michael Knowles did a great job, like I said at the beginning of the video, and all these other people who have been doing these live debates against students and against whoever wants to talk to them, which not many people who are not students, and not many people with things to lose will go and do a live debate with someone like Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro, anybody like that. But let me know what you guys think about Michael Knowles absolutely destroying this student. And, the tweet is obviously going pretty viral for good reason. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about the entire situation.